Everything going good? All right, man. Awesome.
Everything going from your perspective out there? I know some changes being made and guys having to adjust to it. How's that
It's a
going?
lot of fun being a part of new organization and watching how these guys practice. We watched a little bit in OTA days, but obviously the speed is different, the tempo is different. There's different ways you can't really compete in those situations, but now we're starting to be competitive. And you're starting to see that competitive spirit, particularly from our linebacker position with the two guys that lead there. And it just kind of spreads throughout the defense. So it's like really fun to watch a player-led team do player-led things.
Corey just informed us that Romello Hyde had cramps.
Yes.
When you first saw him go down, were you concerned about him?
No, I had Fred over there with the helmet. I just reached to him and asked him, what was that? Was that just cramps? And he gave me the thumbs up, so I knew right away. So there was no real concern from that standpoint from those guys telling us. I knew that would be a question when he got carted off, but obviously he has some real severe cramps. He's going in to get ready.
Kind of speak to what you saw from him, throughout the offseason program. And obviously the pads haven't gotten on, but what's kind of been your impression of him?
A guy with a high capacity. Obviously a guy with great energy. He brings a lot of juice to us and brings some things to us that we needed, that went out and got in the draft. Really pleased with what he's done so far. Obviously as always, kind of putting the cart before the horse when you talk about, upfront people before they actually play the game. But he's done a nice job for everything that he had to test right now. So, according to his tests and the markers that he's been asked to meet, he's met those markers.
Raheem, what does Worth and Nick Martin look like to you so far?
Larry? Yeah, young Larry's done a great job. Talking about a guy that gives us some length and guy that gives some kind of size in that position group and gives us some really good athleticism. And then obviously Nick, we know what he is with the speed. What he is with the element of doing some things. So, getting him out there, giving those guys a chance to go out there and compete, I think has really been good. So, I'm very pleased with everybody. I'd be hard-pressed to come up here and tell you I'm disappointed in anyone in particular. I'm really excited about the group. I'm really excited about the learning curve. I'm really excited about where we're going.
Evaluating the whole secondary, there's a lot of options. You have a lot of guys back, but it seems like you're taking a look at everybody.
It really feels like a great problem. You never have enough great secondary players. You never have enough good secondary players. You never have enough, competition. And I think, our scouting department, John Lynch and everybody involved in that whole area has really done a nice job of bringing people in to compete. Done a nice job in the draft over the past couple of years. And the guys that are already here, obviously you got some vets, some pros, some highly competitive people, highly competitive men that you enjoy watching every single day.
Did you kind of digest the news about what happened to Kyle, and what's the last few days been like here, just getting everything organized?
Really, you digest it first as a friend and foremost, and then you kind of, take it in, and you're really thankful, right? You just kind of sit back and, you hope for the best, and you're thankful that it wasn't worse. And then you watch them bounce back and be able to do things that they're able to do, and you want them to ease back into it. Then you become like this caring figure, right, of just take your time. You got great leadership amongst the coaches. You got great player-led team. You got people that's been around here for the last, 10 years with him that know exactly what he wants and what he demands. And all the new guys like myself, we get caught up pretty quickly. And it's nice to be around that type of a group. It's nice to be around that type of a, organization just in general on a bit to get those things done. So now he's doing whatever he needs to get done to get ready, which we know he will. And he's very capable of doing that.
You haven't worked with Fred Warner and Dre Greenlaw together before, but I'm sure you've watched them. What have you seen from them so far, just being back together?
It's a lot of fun being on their side. Going against those guys, is always something that you were concerned with. How fast they play, how violent they play, the things they're able to do from a communication standpoint and a physical standpoint. That's always awesome. But watching those two communicate with each other in the huddle and the energy that they bring every single day to not only just the field, but the meeting room, the building, the presence, the ideas, the thought process. It's really fun to go into that linebacker room and be a fly on the wall. You sit in the back, every once in a while you get a question. And those two are going to give you high-level questions, not the what are we supposed to do? It's more of the what is this for? And that is really intriguing when you're talking about a coach and being able to communicate that way with the guys.
To drill down more in the secondary, are you getting intel as far as your safety battle is concerned? I know it's early, but are you starting to get that?
Let's be honest. The second day of practice, they've all looked, the part. They've all done some really good things. Obviously there's always going to be corrections. That's what you need coaches for, right? And that's what we're out there for. And that's the really good part. But it is a lot of fun to watch guys compete at a very high level. You're talking about Tig, you're talking about Zeke, you're talking about Malik. You're talking about some of the young guys that we brought in, Ashton just being brought in. There's some young guys here that's done some really good things and moving people in the back end, see Nick back there a little bit, Saran back there a little bit. And watching guys be able to compete at a very high level is a lot of fun.
How excited are you to unleash Nick Bosa this season?
Again, another guy, you're happy to be on his team, finally, like to watch that guy and what he's able to do, the amount of power he plays with, the speed, the presence. He's one of the calmest players I've ever been around in my life. And he brings like this certain ease and this certain ability to move, just effortlessly every single day. So like the excitement to be able to call him when he goes out there. And obviously he's just doing a couple things. He's limited and working his way back, but he looks excellent. And that's always a good sign for us.
A couple more. What's the difference between the weak side linebacker spot and the strong side as far as traits that you want to see in your players?
Obviously a little bit different the way you speak. It's probably like, the Mike has all the similar characteristics that you think about, right? Just think of Fred, right? And then you talk about the weak side linebacker with the ability to move and have the ability to be moving, like a Greenlaw and all the traits that he possesses and coverage and some of the different things. And then you talk about that other guy that's going to be out there that has the ability to be able to move in space, be able to play in the 4 down front, be able to play in the 5 down front, be able to do different things. So like the versatility of those guys is absolutely phenomenal, and it's a lot of fun. So like we just asked about a couple of different guys that look different than what we had with Fred, Larry and Nick. Right, completely two different looking guys, but to be able to move those guys around, the interchangeable pieces to go out there and be able to get those jobs done, I think that's what's the most fun about it all. Somebody's getting fined. Who had a fine?
Nick's speed, is that sort of the asset for him when he's lining up at that strong side spot?
It's hard to say that, man. A lot of these guys, we got some fast guys. Fred's pretty fast. Greenlaw's fast. I don't know what the actual time speeds were, but like when they play fast. Nick is one of those guys that can run fast, time fast, move fast. So his speed should be an asset for him to go out there and play. Duggar ran really well. There's a bunch of different guys out there. Tatum, these guys play fast, they run fast, they do really good things. Wallow, I can name all those guys. They've all stood out in some form or fashion. Larry, all of them. I mean, really, everybody that gets the opportunity, everybody gets an opportunity to go out there and play. They play at a very high level and they communicate at a very high level. You got some real adults in that room. That is I was just telling John and Cal the other day, you guys are spoiled having these type of linebackers in the room and having the ability to be able to do that with these guys and communicate at that high level.
Raheem, what does Jack Jones bring to your DB room?
Playmaking. Obviously, Jack Jones has been known as a playmaker. He's also been known to give up some, right? So it's like you have the ability to get him out there and teach him some fundamentally sound things and be able to have him take advantage of his tools and his assets to have ball skills and catch the ball and score. And he certainly brings that. He's done that throughout his career. He's been marvelous with that, and he's done a nice job since he's been here. So I really look forward to watching him continue to grow.
You say that, do you how much of a priority is it for you guys to figure out when to take those shots, when to take the risk?
That's the biggest key, right? When you play corner in this league, there's always going to be play ops, so to speak. Then you got to learn your play ops, and you got to take advantage of them. And he's one of those guys that can take advantage of them. And if you give him more coaching, you give him more because when it's time not to take those ops, he won't. But if you're out there guessing all the time, you take some ops that are necessary. When you can take the ops and you get those opportunities, that's how you make plays. Making plays is just technique and opportunity meeting, and he's one of the better ones at it when he's in those meeting rooms listening to it.
Bringing some new things to this defense. I mean, Trent is pretty candid. He's faced a certain kind of defense all these years in camp, and now it looks a little bit different. How have the returners on defense, the early impressions of how they've adapted and taken that, some of the new stuff that you're implementing?
Yeah, it really sounds like a question for those guys, but I really think these guys, they love football. That's the common theme around here. The common thing with the guys that we have on our roster, and just they're obsessed, right? So they crave more information, they crave energy, they crave the ability to go out there and learn every single day. And it's not like this is not like my defense, right? This is like the defense we're building that's built for the Niners and what we've already had in place. What we've done, or what they've done, what I want to be a part of, and move forward from there.
Renardo Green in this camp.
He's shown it. He's shown the ability to go out there and play, at an elite level, from bump. He's shown the ability to be able to take it from the classroom to the field. He made a big time play today. He's shown up in a big way. He showed up at OTA days. He's exciting. He's got great length. He's got great ball skills. He's got all the ability in the world. And now is, as you say, time to go out there and do it. So let him continue to do and continue to grow and continue to play. And I think get the best out of players.
What are
the benefits of a 5-man front as opposed to the 4-man front that we've maybe been more accustomed to?
It's hard to say benefits, right? But you're just talking about different ways to dictate what you want on offense, right? It's like you get certain runs in a 4-down front, you get that you're going to get, and you got to fit up. You get certain runs in a 5-down front that you got to run, you got to fit up, right? You open up more things in the passing game when you go to the 5-man front. You create some versatility with some different people. So it's just like the benefits and what are the advantages and what you want to be able to do with those things just based on who you're playing and what you're playing. And you give yourself some real options and some different things of that nature. So to be able to mix those things in like most of the league's doing right now is a lot of fun. Did it a bunch last year, and Robert Saleh did it last year, started to mess around with it a little bit, and we'll mess around with it some, and we'll do some different things. But we got what we got, and you got to take advantage of the players that you have and do those things the right way.